The UFC is very different from its very distant combat cousin, the WWE. However, recently the UFC has taken a bit of a WWE-esque turn, and it's not one that everyone agrees with. UFC champion Kamaru Usman helped train his former opponent Gilbert Burns for his fight against Khamzat Chimaev. This is what we're here to discuss in today's video, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. First up, why would Usman do this? It wasn't that long ago that we were talking about who was going to win between Gilbert Burns and Kamaru Usman, and how much these two fighters wanted to kill each other, and now it seems like the two of them are best friends. So what happened? What changed so drastically that makes these two go from bloodthirsty foes to training buddies? Well, it turns out that the two actually have a history of training together prior to their tilt, and have actually been buddies and teammates for quite some time. It wasn't until Usman decided to leave Burns and his teammates that Burns and Usman became rivals. Not enemies per se, but rivals for sure. Burns challenged Usman for his title in February of 2021, and the fight did not go Burns' way at all, with Burns getting beat pretty handily in the third round. So maybe it was Burns who begged for the help of Usman prior to his fight against Chimaev. Maybe Burns knew that he needed some of what Usman had in order to defeat a contender like him. But does that really make sense when you consider the fact that Usman is the defending champion of their division, and the winner of the bout between Chimaev and Burns will likely have to face Usman for the title later this year or early next year? I think it actually makes perfect sense. Think about it critically for a second. Usman knew that, just like the rest of us, that he was going to have to face the winner of this fight in a match to determine the welterweight champion. So deciding to get inside of the head of Burns actually puts him at an advantage regardless of who he has to face, because he knows exactly what he told Burns, and he knows what Burns thinks and how he fights. So if Burns had won the bout against Chimaev, which, spoiler alert, he did not, Usman would have known his every move inside out. Moreover, now that Chimaev has officially won, Usman knows the weaknesses in Burns' game and can see what Chimaev did to expose those weaknesses, ensuring Usman avoids doing those things. While he may not have gotten directly inside Chimaev's head, he did get inside the mind of his most recent opponent, and that will be an edge that most fighters do not get when fighting for the belt. So while this may have been a bit of a risk, giving away secrets to a potential opponent, it was a calculated risk, one that may prove to pay off tremendously in the end. Up next, did Burns get played by Usman? I think we can all agree that Usman is an amazing fighter. I mean, he is literally a UFC champion, so he can't be that bad, right? Anyway, I have a strange feeling that some people are going to believe that because Usman trained Burns prior to his bout with Chimaev, and then Burns proceeded to lose. People are going to put some blame on Usman and say that he was not a good enough teacher, or that he purposefully gave him bad advice to face a warrior like Chimaev. And before I even get into this part of this video, I have to point out how stupid that is. These two guys are pals at the very least, and I think Burns is good enough fighter himself to recognize poor training advice from good training advice. Moreover, Burns did give Usman a glowing review before he stepped into the octagon with Chimaev, which leads me to believe that Burns would not have endorsed Usman if he did a bad job coaching him. The guy is freaking smart, Burns commented when asked about Usman's training. I give him that. He has the IQ. He was helping out a lot. You don't say something like that if you feel as though his training and his advice were terrible. So I think the narrative that Usman sabotaged Burns is garbage. Burns could not stop praising Usman and admiring him for his help in training. In fact, Burns went on to say he showed up at that sparring ring, and then he showed up the next day, and then he showed up next sparring, Burns said. And he's been there every single day. He's another help, another veteran. Once again, you don't bother to go out of your way to express your heartfelt appreciation and admiration for someone who did you dirty, right? Burns straight up lost to Chimaev despite his extra help in training. And honestly, that's not a direct shot at either one of Burns or Usman. That's more of a pat on the back for Chimaev for defeating Burns despite all the help that he got along the way. Up next, Chimaev proved that he is a beast and that he can beat anyone in this league. Chimaev is an odd talent to me. I mean, the guy literally decided one day that he was going to quit wrestling and become a UFC champion because he saw Conor McGregor beat a guy up on TV, and then Chimaev decided that if McGregor can do it, then so can he. And he proved himself right. Chimaev is now 11-0 in MMA, and he's on a warpath to ensure that he remains undefeated for as long as he can. It's speculated that Usman will have to fight Leon Edwards to defend his title, but the winner of that will either become the UFC champion in the welterweight division or defend their title in the welterweight division. And it is that person who's speculated to have to face Chimaev in defense of the title, as Chimaev believes that he can and will be getting his hands on that championship belt. Chimaev is a tough customer. He already believes that he can beat either Usman or Edwards for the right to be crowned champion. He doesn't care whose name's on the card. He only cares that his name is on the title. Prior to his fight with Burns, Chimaev said, quote, "Burns can bring all the world. It's not helping him." Chimaev said Wednesday at the media day. When he comes to the cage, he can bring all Nigeria if he wants. No problem. I know that this quote was directly made for Burns, but since we know that Usman helped train Burns and that Chimaev doesn't care about that, it's pretty easy to assume that Chimaev does not fear Usman, especially after Chimaev made mincemeat out of his latest pet project. So now I guess we're left to answer the ultimate question. If Usman defeats Leon Edwards and retains his title, who would win in a fight between Usman and Chimaev? Finally, the event we've all been waiting for, Usman versus Chimaev. While it may have been easy for some people to just automatically assume that Usman would dominate Chimaev thanks to his incredible record in the UFC and the fact that he's been at the top of the welterweight division and the UFC power rankings for quite some time now, I think the fight would be a lot closer than some people think. While the edge undoubtedly goes to Usman in terms of experience, poise, and patience, Chimaev has proven to be a much more powerful fighter than most take him for. Therefore, I think there's a real possibility that Chimaev's power in a sustained manner turns out to be too much for Usman to handle in a fight between the two of them. Chimaev is known for his brutality and the fact that he has finished so many of his opponents in every fight he has been, with the overwhelming majority of his fights being won in the first round, could be a huge factor in a fight between these two. Patience and poise will mean nothing if Chimaev has Usman finished before the second round. Furthermore, the confidence level for Chimaev is at an all-time high. He's riding an incredibly long undefeated streak that may prove difficult for anyone to stop, which will definitely allow Chimaev to ride a wave of momentum going into the fight. That may end up being his undoing, however, as overconfidence is never a good thing and oftentimes leads to the fighter's demise rather than their success. And lastly, Usman is not getting any younger. While he may not be eligible for a senior's discount just yet, he's definitely no spring chicken, and his age may begin to show sooner than he would want. And in a fight against Chimaev, wear and tear from years of fighting will not help you. And it may be enough for Chimaev to get the win against Usman. But even so, this fight would be a fight for the ages, with Usman being the best fighter in the world, pound for pound right now, according to the UFC, and Chimaev being the hottest fighter on the planet at the moment. It will be one heck of a fight that is essentially a coin flip until the winner is declared. But as of right now, this fight has yet to be even booked, so we may never know who would win between these two fighters, but I'm sure the odds of us getting this fight are much higher than the odds of us not getting this fight. Right, Dana? That's all we have for you guys today on the channel. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you all in the next one.